What's most important now is that we have all the chords in the closed position, and that means we can transpose it to the tonality we want. It will make your sight reading much better, and it will help you also learn the pieces a bit faster. And of course, also understand better the harmonic context of each piece if you shift it from minor to major and major to minor. Hello everyone, my name is Francisco Luís, I'm from Portugal, and welcome to another tone-based course about improving your fretboard knowledge. So, a topic that is maybe not so much discussed in the classical guitar community, and maybe not discussed so much on the guitar lessons as well, because of course there might be other priorities to one's career and one's development as a guitarist, is this knowledge of, well, having the theoretical knowledge about a piece or about certain progressions and how to apply it physically. In that sense, how to apply it to our own instrument with the idiomatic requirements that this instrument needs. Therefore, I would like to suggest just a small exercise that it might help and might be introduction to a future research that you might want to do for yourselves. So I'm going to pick up this just a very small passage from the Etude 1 by Giulio Regondi. And yes, I'm going to play it for you, and after that we're going to do a small harmonic analysis of this passage. So, you probably recognize it, Of course, first of all, this passage, of course, we're just going to do a harmonic deconstruction of it, and we start with the C major, so the root chord. The first etude is in C major. And then we have a secondary dominant, a dominant 7th, falling into A minor, the relative 3rd of C major. And later, this very beautiful chord that almost sounds like a moldur, but that I would interpret as a 2nd degree inverted, so the F on the bass. The 2nd degree would have A natural, but in this case we have a lowered 5th degree. So a 2nd degree inverted with a lowered 5th. And this appoggiatura on G, then falling for this. You do the harmonic deconstruction of this, and from that moment onwards you can find a good connection between tonalities. In this case, the connection between C major and A minor. And of course, we're using a very simple type of modulation technique. We're using the secondary dominant, which is just a dominant, a 7th, but works very well on guitar because we're playing it on the 1st position. But what if we wanted to play it in other tonalities? Usually it's not so easy to find because the guitar has very proper characteristics. So if we talk about the piano, the notes are there, and to make a transposition is quite clear, at least in a visual sense. Of course, I'm not a pianist, so I'm not going to speak about the technical details about playing it on the piano. But in the guitar, what we can do is find other ways of playing the same chords or the same harmonies, and then apply it along the fretboard. So the C major chord, you can play it in many different positions, as you probably know many of the positions. You can play it here, you can play it here, here, and you've probably seen these positions and these shapes in various pieces that you've already studied within your repertoire. You can also play the different inversions of the C major chord. And voila, and also different positioning. But the idea is to find different positions for the same chords we saw on Regondi, and shapes that can allow you to play exactly these chords in any position of the fretboard. So for instance, if you can play the C major here, you can play it here. And then we try to do exactly the same thing with the other chords. So for instance, the first was C major. Then you have a secondary dominant, which is basically the dominant 7th chord. You could also play it, of course, here. Also with open string, but we can play it like this, for instance. And A minor, of course, you also know already a lot of shapes like. And you do this with each of the chords of the passage that you're analyzing. And then after you know already these positions, you can just practice without, for instance, the right hand pattern that we saw in the Regondi. You can just practice the chord shapes and the progression in different positions. And then you can do it also here. You can also, for instance, for this chord, you can play the bass 1 octave higher, and then you keep the position here with an A natural or with a flat, as you want. You can also play again the G of the bass. You can play it 1 octave higher. But what's most important now is that we have all the chords in the closed position, and that means we can transpose it to the tonality we want. So this I can also do. Now I'm doing it in B flat major, and I can play it also here. A bit harder, of course, but... And this is the idea of the exercise. Once you know the harmonic function of each chord, and once you find the different positions, the different shapes that allow you to play it, then you can actually play these progressions in any tonality. And this can be quite convenient, especially if you're interested in following improvisation and composing. That's how I got a lot of my ideas for my compositions. I got inspired by repertoire. But absolutely, I analyzed some of my favorite pieces, and I saw the harmonies, for instance, that I enjoyed the most, and I tried to apply them in different positions of the fretboard. And of course, once you're familiar and comfortable with the different positions that you play along the fretboard, for instance, on this case with this passage from Giulio Regondi, you can actually add the right hand pattern, and you can play it in a tonality. So for instance, I was playing it here, but I can play it also here. So, and also, you know, and this allows you to shift and play everything in all tonalities.